Hey all, welcome. I will be giving you some administrative powers. So, welcome everyone. I will be silence you all in a very lovely way. I will kindly ask you all to put your, except the speakers, to put your cameras off. And while we wait for 3 more minutes for the transition from one panel to the other panel, we have here Andres Morales, that will be our moderator. I will give him the word first to start introducing our lovely speakers. And I will be just taking care of the chat and also giving administrative powers to different persons. I'm Agus, I'm the founder of ADOS. Here's the name of ADOS Global, or the other side, ADOS Global. Our mission is to empower people with the skills to thrive in the future, in this ever-changing future. Of course, we are a youth organization, a social organization. We are used to work with young people. We hosted the Y20 2018. It's the youth engagement group of the G20. And here we have many of the participants, the delegates, and young people working, doing the advocacy inside the G20 and inside in many multilateral organizations. So let me check if we have some more people to enter. And if not, Andres, this will be all yours. I think we're good. So, welcome everyone. It's a big pleasure to have you here. And with us is, on that side, over here, over there, Andres Morales. He's from UNESCO, Social and Human Science. He will be the moderator of this beautiful panel. We are putting the young people in the center of the action, in the center of advocacy, and we want to listen from them. It's not only the International Youth Day, but we consider an International Youth Month to keep this discussion going. So Andres, thank you so much for being here, for dedicating your time and your work to the young people, and it's all yours.
Thank you, Agus. Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good night, wherever you are. I'm very pleased to be here and to see many familiar faces again in this meeting, in this webinar. Welcome to this second panel, From Declaration to Action, Scaling Youth Advocacy. I again introduce myself. I'm Andres Morales. I'm the Social and Human Science Specialist of UNESCO for Latin America and the Caribbean. I'm responsible of the youth program. I'm based right now in Uruguay, and I'll be moderating this great panel to discuss how is the youth advocacy at the international level doing, what are the main challenges, what are the main success, and of course discussing what are we meant to do under these circumstances during the pandemic and what are the challenges we are facing during this context. Um, I'm very happy to see this panel. I understand that we are still missing two of the participants, but we will begin having this conversation with the four of you who are already here. I want to welcome and thank you all for being here with us. We have here Wadi Ben Hirki. Thank you, Wadi, for being with us. Wadi is a development worker, writer, and public speaker. She is the founder of the Wadi Ben Hirki Foundation. She currently sits on the African Leadership Institute Youth Advisory Board and serves as the country representative for the Chatham House Common Future Conversation. Thank you, Wadi, for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Great. I'm also want to say hi to Kekeshan Basu, who also participated at the Y20 summit in Argentina. Kekeshan is a youth leader, author, musician, and TED speaker. She's a United Nations human rights champion. She's the founder, president of Green Hope Foundation, that it's a social innovation enterprise that works with vulnerable people around the world. Great to see you again, Kikeshan.
Great to see all of you too. Thank you.
Great. Now we move to Europe. We have Roman Shukov, also a former Y20 delegate and also participant in Argentina Summit. Roman is a founding member of Friend for Leadership, a horizontal platform for next generation leaders and entrepreneurs. He also represents Russia in the multi-stakeholder advisory group of the United Nations Internet Governance Forum. Great to have you here, Roman.
Greetings from Moscow. Hello, everyone. Pleasure to be with you.
Thank you. And we have Annika Suomi. Annika was also a former Y20 delegate in the Argentinian summit. She's currently the Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for Leading Change Canada, a regional focal point for the United Nations major group of children and youth, and a youth advisor to the Canadian Commission for UNESCO. Great to have you here, Annika.
Thanks so much for having me.
Good. And I think we're still missing Lisa Nyenga, who works in Generation Unlimited project, a UNICEF project on youth engagement. Then when she catches up, we will have her in during the conversation. So it will be great, although I did a brief introduction of all of you, it will be great to hear a bit more from you, the kind of work that you are doing, and particularly to share your experience as advocacy leaders. Tell us, please, Wadi, we will begin with you. What sort of work you do in terms of advocacy, and can you share what has been your experiences and good practices so we can have a first round on it? Wadi?
Sure. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. And I'm also happy to meet the Y20 delegates that I last saw in 2018. So like you rightly said, I'm the founder of Wadi Ben Hirki Foundation. And what we basically do has to do with education, gender, and peace. And this is because I come from northern Nigeria, and these are the three major issues that we face. There are so many, about 10.5 million out of school children in Nigeria, and over 50% of them are from the north. Also, child marriage is a major issue. We have 43% of girls married off before age 18, and a lot of issues with the Boko Haram crisis. I'm sure you're well conversant with the whole Bring Back Our Girls campaign in 2015 or 14, where many girls were abducted from school. So these are the reasons why we decided to start the organization, to spread more light about these issues and try to bring about change. So our 4 projects, the first is Street to School. And as the name implies, we go to local communities and see the number of children that are not in school and organize scholarship scheme to take some of them in school. But we cannot take everyone to school, of course, because of funds and many other issues. And that is where advocacy comes in. We advocate and lobby for policies to be changed and implemented to ensure that every child has access to school. One of our successes so far is being a part of the civil society organizations that advocated for free and inclusive education for girls in Kaduna State. So at the moment, as a result of our advocacy with other civil society organizations, there is free education for girls in government schools in Kaduna State. Another thing where we're advocating for is to increase the age consent in Nigeria. At the moment, age consent is 11 years old, which is very absurd. An 11-year-old should not be able to make decisions about whether or not they want to be married. So we're trying to advocate for it to be changed to at least 18 years old. Another thing we do is go to local communities and sensitize these people about the harms and ills of child marriage. So many of them, as a result of issues like poverty and illiteracy, they don't know the value of education. And because they are poor, they're like, let me just marry off my girl child and get some money from whoever I'll marry her off to, which is very bad. So we go and sensitize them. We can't do it alone, of course. This is where we advocate and partner with community gatekeepers, such as their local leaders. These are people that we believe the villagers and people living in local communities listen to. So in our advocacy, we ensure to partner with such people, partner with the media, radio stations, and other stakeholders that we believe are influential. And lastly, it's called the Love in the Midst of War. Like I rightly said earlier on, there's a lot of issues around terrorism and insurgency in Nigeria. So we advocate and try to spread love, peace, and hope. One good thing I like is I say, let your actions do the talking. So in the foundations team, we have young people working with us, and we all represent different regions and different religions in Nigeria. So we don't want to preach something and do something else. So our team is an example of proper representation of people from different parts of the country, saying that we all have differences. There's beauty in diversity. An example I always give is eating bread and jam every day. You get tired, it gets boring. Sometimes you want to eat it with egg, you want to eat it with butter. And that is the same thing. If you only people from your religion or culture are in the world, it becomes boring. So we try to tell people to embrace each other despite our differences and also promote peaceful coexistence. So these are the things we do in the foundation. What the good practices, I'll say, one, engaging other people, other stakeholders. You cannot do like advocacy by yourself, to be honest. So you have to engage. Before you go about any activity, you map out and see in this community who are the people that I need to bring on board. For example, in northern Nigeria, the community gatekeepers and stakeholders that will bring on board will be different from western Nigeria. So everything, is contextual. So we do a mapping and do a survey to see who the people we should bring on board are. Secondly, you have to ensure that, there's unity in your voice. What I'm saying shouldn't be different from what another young person is saying. For me, I believe collaboration is key in ensuring sustainable advocacy. There is no competition there. I may have my organization, person B may have her own, but at the end, the goal is sustainability, right? And making positive change. So we all come together in solidarity. And whenever we have maybe a petition to sign or we want to, lobby the government, we all come together with one voice. There's power in one voice. And thirdly, I would say social media platforms. There are millions of young people online that may not know what is happening. I mean, somebody in Australia may not understand the depth of child marriage like I do, because that is not their reality. But social media has made it easy for me to talk about the issues, and get help from different people around the world. Also, amazing thing we do in the foundation is getting other young people on board. There are many passionate people that may not have the resources, but they have the talents and skills that they could use to bring on board and create change. So if you want to go into advocacy, you may not know how to make a video, edit, or do graphics, but that's when you call for other people to come on board, and then together, you make change. And then lastly, there's power in showing what exactly you're passionate about. Use your social media platforms. It's not possible for me to say, I'm very passionate about education, and online there's nothing I'm doing or saying. August 12th, it's International Youth Day. You can write a blog post, put it out there, just do a simple post. Things like that, will help in, making your voice heard. Lastly, there are many opportunities online. There are many links that have so many opportunities for young people, many organizations that you can volunteer for and get updated and verifiable information, because there's so much fake news going around. So you need to do advocacy with the right information. So you do your homework, go online, search for, those organizations and sites that post, verifiable information. Then you use whatever statistics they show to go about your advocacy. Thank you so much.
Great, Wadi. Thank you for sharing. Kekishan, Wadi shared with us some great experiences doing advocacy for policy, working with the community, engaging with other people. How's been your experience from your foundation?
Sure. But first of all, hello everyone. Good afternoon from Toronto, Canada, and good morning, good evening to all those who are joining us from across the world. And I just wanted to say that it's great to be here and be among so many like-minded people, and of course see so many familiar faces as well. So as Andres mentioned, I am a UN Human Rights Champion, founder, president of Green Hope Foundation, and I've also just been elected as the council lead of the Toronto St. Paul's Constituency Youth Council, which is my constituency here in Canada. So I founded Green Hope Foundation when I was 12 years old, and Green Hope Foundation actually celebrated its 8th anniversary about 6 days ago on August 12th, which, as you know, is International Youth Day. And that was back in 2012 when I had just returned from Brazil after speaking at the Rio Plus 20 Earth Summit, where as a 12-year-old, I was the youngest international delegate amongst the 50,000 participants. And I was completely disillusioned by the lack of children and young people in the sustainable development process. And to change this inequality, I founded Green Hope Foundation with the 5 of my friends. So Green Hope Foundation is a social innovation enterprise working on localizing the sustainable development goals, working on education for sustainable development, the environment, gender, nuclear disarmament, peace, health, and developing a circular economy. And 2 years ago, when we met just after International Youth Day in Cordoba, Green Hope had established its 12th chapter in Suriname. And in the 2 years since then, we have nearly doubled our impact. We've now educated over 80,000 young people, and we've added Bangladesh, Indonesia, Vietnam, Liberia to our list of country chapters. Officially, we have 2,060 members. We are accredited to the United Nations Environment Program, United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification. And last year, we were awarded the top 100, top innovator of the year amongst the top 100 innovations on education and sustainability. And just 2 weeks ago, we received the Gorbachev-Schultz Legacy Award for our work on peace and disarmament in honor of Mikhail Gorbachev and George Soros. And I was actually the first person to receive this award. So yeah, with Green Hope Foundation, we focus on education for sustainable development and making sure that we empower children and youth all across the world, especially those in marginalized communities. So those in the Syrian refugee camp, the Rohingya refugee camp, homes for children of prisoners, homes for children who are HIV positive, and orphanages, the destitute, the homeless, working to make sure that we implement the Sustainable Development Goals mandate of leaving no one behind and achieving a life of dignity for all. So and it's not just the non-formal education. We are also partnered with education boards across the world. And the main mantra of Green Hope Foundation is grassroots level action, because we firmly believe that you cannot achieve a sustainable world only through rhetoric alone. So what we talk about, we implement at the ground level. So we have planted over 90,000 trees now all across the world. We've planted over 5,000 mangroves, cleaned up over 160 beaches, and of course had an outreach in 25 countries across the world. And Green Hope achieved this because I always believe that every child has the power to be a change maker and drive that change. And the route to advocacy is not just talking, but walking the talk. And that is why we promote that sense of self-empowerment in especially the vulnerable communities, so that every child and every young person has that ability to bring about positive change in their own zones of influence. So yeah, we have been extremely active for the past 8 years, for the past 12 years for me. But for us, it's basically to ensure that every single child and every single young person and every person in general has the ability to bring about change. And together we are able to achieve that sustainable world and sustainable future that we all want.
Thank you, Kekishan. Great, marvelous work you are doing. We will continue in Canada with Annika to hear from your experience. How's been this of doing advocacy from your perspective?
Sorry, folks.
Annika, are you there? Annika? It seems she's troubling with the communication. Well, we'll see if she can sort it out. So maybe we continue with you, Roman, from your experience. Can you share on what you have done in different contexts with the advocacy?
Hello, everyone. Can I be heard? Excellent. So, again, greetings from Moscow. So we're here now discussing how to share the vaccine against coronavirus with the whole world. This is really something I'm busy with this couple of days, the beginning of this week. So I really hope that we can find an appropriate solution on how we can share that, because for me, sharing the best practices is exactly about something feasible, about sharing something good or leading us to something good. And this is in the center of all the activities where I try to allocate my time, either working hours or free time, because as smart people say, it's always better to make your hobby your work. So my hobby, as many people here know, and I'm happy to see so many familiar faces from different global occasions, my hobby is to help people to lead the change, to be the change. And my path from G8 Youth Summit in 2009 in Italy, where I represented Russia when I was 16 years old. Honestly, the questions on the agenda was absolutely the same as now. Nowadays, only coronavirus added some value to healthcare angle of what should be done. But basically, nothing changed. And since 2009, then I had some experiences of hosting the Youth20 Summit when I was, me and our team, we were responsible for hosting it in Russia in 2013. Then we hosted the BRICS Summit in 2015. This year we again host the BRICS Summit, but most probably it will be online. I still don't know. It will be up to our youth ministry. But what was the result of all these years of actions is obviously you're meeting people. And you are meeting those who want to change the world. For those who these words is not something empty, you know, just sent to the air, something meaningful. Because somebody after this summit received the momentum to open some enterprise, to open some youth-led advocacy, consultancy, or make some innovative production of something. And we started to unite these people into the network of networks, as we call it, because our idea was not to limit participation of people, but rather encourage them to share the best practices. Because first time 11 years ago, I saw the phrase to raise awareness and to share best practices. And since then, I didn't see any format and any written document or any platform stipulating for sharing something. From what I see, people are only hiding everything from everyone and accusing everyone of stealing some intellectual property, but nobody is opening up the best practices pool of projects. So this is what we strive to do as Friends for Leadership. We started 2 years ago in one of the events in Russia by the Roscongress Foundation, from where I'm speaking now, from my office. And it was in St. Petersburg International Economic Forum, the so-called Russian Davos. You may Google, it's rather interesting event. But anyway, so we gathered people, the change makers who after the youth summits started to do something, either in the sphere of politics from local level or regional or national parliamentary level, anything, or opened their innovative enterprise, or made another network. So we try to work, for now we are 60 plus countries, I think 66 or 67 with more than 200 people. It's not much, but all these people are also members of different other networks, and they are bearers of this know-how, of these best practices. So everyone is sharing and putting to the table something good, which we can all implement at home. So you may see some of our webinars throughout the pandemic. And I honestly think that for such work as we are doing here, for advocacy, for exchanging good ideas, for exchanging knowledge, exchanging franchise social projects or commercial projects, which do not require physical cooperation, online format is really enough. So I encourage everyone not to be afraid of being online, but to take this advantage that we can all speak and continue this communication. So I think that we achieved the amount of work, the meetings, decisions, including the cooperation with the United Nations, some MOUs and some, ideas of institutional cooperation for like 3 years. So this pandemic period of like 4 months was equal to 3 years of fruitful cooperation with the overseas business trips and so on. So we think about pros, about the valuable things which Corona time gave us. So we need to use that. We need to use the opportunity to speak to everyone, to share the best practices, to understand how we can recover, how on national, local level we can recover from the crisis, how we can reset our economies, how we can ensure the attention towards young people. The school year starts in a couple of weeks. We need to ensure that people go to school, young people, the children. If they don't go to school, we need to ensure that in our society they have access to devices, to internet for distant learning. It all is very serious task, and this is number one priority. As I mentioned in the beginning, for me, the real sharing of best practices would be to somehow disseminate the vaccine against the coronavirus. I understand that this is the beginning of huge global business as the anti-flu vaccine. Some people believe it, some people do not believe it. But, as Russia became first to actually invent the vaccine, I think we will do our best to, in either form, to share it after the population of the Russian Federation is actually provided with access, and those who want to be vaccinated after they can have this opportunity. I believe that export will be available. So let's see. I really hope that we can share this and make this a little input to our world. Also, what I wanted to mention, Russia this year is presiding over BRICS. We welcome the BRICS Plus concept, when all the nations who want to cooperate with the BRICS countries are welcome to do so in the BRICS Plus format, which is open. And also G20 is a very interesting process which united many of our speakers. Today we had this amazing summit in Argentina, and thanks to ADOS for organizing this. I think that these are crucial elements of global youth cooperation, global youth advocacy. We also have global shapers, we have ISEC, we have United Nations major group on children and youth. We have many networks and enterprises, social enterprises and organizations which other speakers mentioned. So we need to find, as I see the added value of all this infrastructure which we have, we need to find those working scalable solutions which can be implemented elsewhere, which only require our time and energy and insufficient amount of finance sometime. And this is why we should advocate. It shouldn't be for self-PR, it shouldn't be for some political tasks. This should be in the center of our efforts. We are those who are active, who are ready to invest our time and opportunities, our networks, connections and knowledge to co-creating of something, to ensuring the peaceful coexistence. Because I think that for me personally, maybe for many others, it's absolutely uncivilized, absolutely not normal to hear about some conflicts nowadays, when you know that so many people in the world are suffering from this unknown infection. And I think there should be a global ceasefire. But what happens, it's absolutely ridiculous. So only because of such people like we, and those who watch us, and those who are not here, but who are like us, who want to be the change, who lead the change, we should do that. We should never stop our advocacy. Yes, we are not eternally young physically, but I'm sure that we can be young mentally, inside. So let's not stop this passion. Let's continue to change the world, to lead the people who want to share the good things. And I'm sure that our generation will lead us to prosperity. So I will not take any more of time. I think I said everything, but I'm ready for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Roman. Great, your experiences and what you have done, and of course putting in this context of the pandemic that we will just continue on that. I see that Annika already joined us again. Great to have you back.
Thank you. Apologies, having some technical difficulties this afternoon, but we're back.
No worries. Go ahead. Your turn.
Yeah, sure. So first of all, thank you again, folks, for having me here. It's such a pleasure to join all of you and to chat a little bit more about the youth advocacy space and really how young people can take advantage of just the wealth of opportunities we have, and also when there aren't opportunities, create them. I am working in the North America context, so I am based in Canada, have been working in Canada. I've done some work abroad as well, but most of my expertise and my region of focus has been in Canada. And I think something that's really been coming to light, especially during the COVID pandemic, is just the way that specific communities or populations are being disproportionately affected by the implications of Corona, and the ways that healthcare, social services, and education are disproportionately affecting these people. Most of this population are youth populations, but youth populations with intersectional diverse identities. So folks from Black or Indigenous communities, racialized young people, immigrants, low income, low class or low wealth constituents. So really a wide diverse range of folks who are really struggling from the most negative effects of Corona, and the ways that that is shaping the type of advocacy that needs to be done. As somebody who's been working in the diversity and equity space, recognizing these tensions that result in these populations being the most left behind, to use a very typical rhetoric that's been used in the international space, these populations that are most left behind are the ones who really should be amplified and uplifted into spaces where they can share their thoughts, they can share solutions, and actually talk about what relevant solutions to these barriers that are disproportionately affecting them can be. And I think a lot of this happens already at grassroots level, but how do we take those grassroots mobilizations, those grassroots initiatives, and really bring them up to international and national spaces where their information and their lived experiences can be validated and used to reform the way that we do education, that we do healthcare, that we do social services? How are we bringing in those individuals who are most disproportionately affected into shaping the conversations that concern them and can potentially support them or address the challenges that they're facing? A really somber statistic I heard recently was that the coronavirus pandemic is poised to actually undo the last 50 years of poverty reduction work in the world. And that's because of the ways that communities are most quote unquote left behind as a result of the implications within healthcare, education, and more as a result of the coronavirus. So how are we recognizing this fact and then saying we're not going to come in and establish a neo-colonial or an imposed solution to these communities, but rather we're working side by side and uplifting these communities, amplifying their voices into spaces where we know that there's importance to have their voices, but now these solutions are being led by those that are direct beneficiaries.
Great, thank you, Annika, especially for bringing up the most vulnerable communities that we need to raise up their hands and put them in the national, international arena. No, so thank you for that. So I remind everyone, please to use our hashtag #FutureMeetsPresent. Send us your questions for this brilliant panel. We already have one from Maru. I want to share with you all to see who wants to answer. How do you think you can scale up what happens on youth conference and boost social impact? That's an interesting question. You all participate on international conference. You have the opportunity to advocate before governments, international organizations. Well, and these questions bring us on the importance on how we can have more social impact. Who wants to go ahead, Kikishan, and then Roman?
I can take that. Yeah, I am of the mindset that youth conferences, especially in this day and age, are to actually boost social impact, youth need to be at the decision-making table, at the main conference. And I think, with the question that we just got, in order to actually boost social impact, we can only do that if young people are not tokenistically relegated to youth conference, but actually at the decision-making table and are interacting with people who have that power to make the decisions, and then learn how they can learn the lessons from them as well. And I'd like to bring up that, in this pandemic, my organization has been conducting several high-level webinars where we've been bringing the voices of experts at the UN, at government level, to the civil society level. We even had former President of Ireland, Mary Robinson, speak at our panel. And what I realized from there was that the need of the hour and to boost the social impact is to actually have an intergenerational conversation and make sure that we have that perspective, the wisdom of our elders and the uninhibited passion of the young people, and bringing that, only by bringing that together can we actually achieve that sustainable world. So and only once we have that we'll be able to scale what happens at all of these conferences, take the youth impact, and make sure that those vulnerable communities are not left behind. So yeah, that's my answer.
I totally agree.
Roman.
Yes, absolutely agree with my friend. And we were together with Kehkashan in, I think, Abu Dhabi last time for the World Cities Day. It was the last event before the pandemic, which I was lucky to visit offline. And I really miss the opportunity of brainstorming with people when you are closer than through the monitor of your screen. But still, it's new normal. So we are getting used, and I believe Maru sent this question during my presentation. So yes, this is exactly the meaning of what I was trying to say, that it's important to scale up those best practices which are on the table. So you come from the different corners of the world, you share, you put to the table what you have, you explain people how you can achieve this. If it's just a social project, it's super easy, so people can just replicate it with step 1, step 2, step 3 instruction. And this is what we strive to do in Friends for Leadership. If it's a commercial project, it's a bit tougher because it requires international investments and so on, but it's also manageable. So this is another angle of our work. So we not only scale social practices, but also important commercial ventures which will help to change the world. Actually, we are all now in 2020, and it's exactly 10 years before achieving the SDGs. So if we all think of all those measures, ideas of the summits, forums, and conferences where we've taken part, or if you were not a part of these events, you can Google the outcome documents of these events. You can have a look what ideas were presented, and you can make a roadmap how you can implement this or that idea. So we have 10 years, we have 17 goals. Just go ahead. So everything is in our hands. We should just take these best practices and put them into effect. Of course, only there where you are an expert or you have a passion. So if it's not your area, you better not even touch it. So just try to focus your activities on those applicable solutions, applicable practices which you can bring to your place or which you can share. If you are volunteer and you're uniting volunteers on your municipal level, you can pack it and show to the world. Maybe through Friends for Leadership, we are always open. You can submit your ideas on our website or any other networks who are doing the same advocacy. Just go ahead.
But what would you say, what is not working? Because I mean, Kekeshan just said there are youth spaces. You can see at the international level, there are a lot of youth and advocacy participation for youth, only for youth, but also for youth with policymakers. The UN Secretary General has done a lot of intention on trying to promote this, but still something is not working.
Why it's not working, right?
What would you say we need to improve from youth's perspective, but also from the institutions?
Yeah, we need to start working. So my friend previously just said that it shouldn't be tokenistic. It's about work with your hands. You read that you can make a cleanup Saturday. You invite volunteers from your yard, from your house, you go and you clean up the territory. Like this is one of the projects who participate in Friends for Leadership from Russia. They are called Clean Games. You may check cleangames.ru, and they are now scaling it with the help of several friends in different countries. So they unite volunteers, they go clean the territory, but they do it in the form of competition of some game. So they compete with each other who collect the garbage in a more innovative way, you know, so it's creativity in place. Go ahead, you can just replicate it. And this is what I said, that even if you were not part of these summits, you can always Google the interesting ideas which you can go and implement. If this is something which correlates with your passions, with your hobbies, with your expertise, if you were at those summits, you're obliged to go and work. Yes, somebody is more efficient in speaking to policymakers, and this is the high-level advocacy and lobbyism, which is also crucial, and also part of our like Friends for Leadership. Not all are practitioners; part of them are high-level, let's say, lobbyists. But this is also important when you try to connect those who do and those who take decisions. So everyone in this scheme is important, but everyone should act. If you're not acting, you're irrelevant. You are not needed, especially in this online life.
Roman.
I would like to speak if there's time.
Please.
Okay, so I agree with what my colleagues said, Roman and Kekashan. Sorry, I need to go to a better place because of noise. So for me, what is not working, I like what they said about, you know, youth inclusion, because of course, there's nothing about us without us. I love that phrase. You know, you need to bring youth to the table, and intergenerational dialogues are very much important because young people make up, I think, maybe more than 50% of the world's population. And in a few years, we are the ones that will take over sort of both in the private and public sectors. So it's important that we get used to the work now so that we don't make the mistakes that, you know, generations before us made. But I would say there's some things that are not working. For example, even when young people are given the opportunities, they need funds to like continue the work. But there are times where you see some, like, let's say, eligibility requirements. They are quite difficult for young people, let's say at grassroots level, you know, to be eligible for this funds. Most young people that get the opportunity, you know, to speak at high panel levels, it's because they've done so much work, but they need to scale up. They need funding. They need more, you know, exposure to do the work. But when there are so many difficult, you know, eligibility requirements for them, it becomes difficult. I always believe in contextualizing things. In Africa, what works is different from what will work in Europe. The opportunities that a young person in Africa may not have, someone in Europe may have because of so many challenges, you know, that they face. So making things eligible, you should look at the context. You should look at the fact that, for example, a 20-year-old in South America may be done with school, but someone in like West Africa may not, because there are so many challenges. So what is not working is generalizing some of these things and applying the same rules and regulations, you know, globally. I feel like that is a major, you know, challenge. So that is one thing that should be looked into. Secondly, there's so many opportunities now, but it's about the whole coronavirus situation, finding a cure, creating, you know, more knowledge about it, let people know about the situation. It's a very, very serious situation. But one thing I'm saying is that not everyone will be able to find the cure to corona. Not everyone will be able to be at the forefront, you know, about the COVID-19 situation. Education can't wait. Gender equality issues can't wait. Climate change issues can't wait. So making everything now about one particular issue is widening the gap, you know, of like gender equality. For example, World Economic Forum report in 2018 says that it will take 108 years to achieve gender equality. But with COVID-19, I think it will take much more years because there's the attention that, you know, that education or peace building had it doesn't have it as much anymore. So I think at the end, contextualizing things is important. And secondly, like Roman said, there are different issues. So people should stick to, if I'm passionate about education, I should stick to education. Not because now COVID-19 is what is rampant, I will now jump to say I want to solve the problem. So contextualizing things is important, and sort of making other problems as urgent as that of maybe gender equality is an issue in Africa. It may not be much a serious issue in Europe, but it doesn't mean they are equally not issues. So I believe we should contextualize things and create funding opportunities for young people to scale up their impact. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree so wholeheartedly with what Wadi just said. And first of all, with the funding, yes, I think there's this whole misconception that investing in children and young people is not lucrative. You have companies that have their CSR, and then tokenistically they'll say that, oh, we support children and young people. But actually, when it comes to supporting the work that they're doing on the ground, then they're like, oh no, sorry, we have to sponsor something else. So I think that is so important that we have the resources to take forward our work. Another really important point that Wadi just mentioned is, that there are different challenges in different parts of the world. And at my organization, we try so hard to convince people that localizing solutions, localizing sustainable development goals is so important, because what works in one country or one region will definitely not work in another one. You have shouting and striking in one part of the world in Europe, for example, but that's not going to work in a village in Bangladesh where they don't even have access to education or have food to eat or don't know what their next day would look like. So that is extremely important. And I think understanding that you face these different challenges globally is really, really important. And the last point I'd like to make is that something that is not working is that, people don't recognize that age has nothing to do with capability. I think that is really, really important, understanding that no matter what your age is, if you have the experience, if you have the passion and the knowledge, you should be able to have the seat at the table to speak about it and then make and then spread the impact. So yeah, those are my points.
Thank you. Annika.
And I will keep this super brief. So I think there have been really great points that have been raised. Something that I really do in diversity, equity, inclusion work is really push individuals to acknowledge what type of privilege they have access to. And this can be class, this can be wealth, this can be racial privilege, and recognize by virtue of that privilege that they have, that there was a responsibility to redistribute those opportunities. So for example, myself being a young woman who is educated, who speaks English as a first language, I have access to a lot of opportunities that, individuals who may not come from the same educational context, may not come from North America, may not come from the same language access, will not have. And so it's my responsibility then in that position of quote unquote power to ensure that I am using myself as a way to amplify those opportunities and then connect people who may not have those resources or that access in order to then plug into new exciting opportunities where their voices can be amplified. Something that I see often in these international initiatives and forums is the same few people showing up every single time. And that's great because it means that we really have, as Roman said, like people who are really specializing in this youth advocacy space. But this also means that there are very few people in the world who have the financial access, who have the ability to take time off of work, who have the ability to travel, a passport that will allow them to travel in order to even show up to these places. And that's a problem because how many people are already doing that work outside of that core group of few that aren't getting access to that? And therefore, how are we in those spaces then ensuring that we are bringing those voices and amplifying those thoughts and beliefs and lived experiences and not focusing only on academic spaces or quote unquote validated knowledge? How are we bringing traditional knowledge? Something we're doing in Canada is bringing in Indigenous knowledge systems. How are we bringing in somebody who has 25 years of lived experience as a minority and ensuring that that is being seen as valuable as somebody who has maybe a PhD in interracial relations? So how are we really bringing in all of this and really turning the way that we've been conditioned to see what is valuable and what is good and what is important in these pieces, and how are we turning that on its head to really figure out who is missing and why are they missing.
Thank you, Annika. Thank you all. I think we are closing. I see Agus who's here, and I think he's going to cut us here. So thank you all for this great conversation. Agus, we hear how this continues.
If you would like to do some conclusions, Andres, we have 2 minutes.
No, I think what has been discussed is great. It's brilliant. I think we are facing a huge challenge right now with the coronavirus and thinking on how youth participation can really continue and engage. That's something we all have to think very well. The context, of course, open new opportunities. As you mentioned, we need to bring new youth to the table, and I think that the online can be a good opportunity, but also we have to consider those who are not able to connect to the online world. So thank you very much. I think we still have a lot of work to do, but having people like you in the territories, working with the community, with more youth, with children, I think that's the kind of youth that inspires to continue doing the work. So thank you very much for what you do, and we hope to continue being in touch.
Thank you, Andres, for moderation.
Thank you for having us.
Agustin for hosting us. Thank you so much, everyone, the speakers.
Thank you, everyone. Keep in touch. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you to all the speakers, for all the guests. Thank you, Andres, for your moderation. These events that Future Meets the Present will continue. We will move from a panel to an interactive session. It will be super different to what we are used to have in this framework and in these conferences online. It will be an experience about alternative futures, exploring the puzzle of learning and working on the 21st centuries. It will be like a limited edition. We have a few spaces only. So if you would like to participate, here in the chat, we put the link and also the password. If you have any inconvenience, you can write to us in our social networks and we can share all the data. Thank you all for participating. And just also to add a conclusion to what Andres said, I think is about, like Kasha said, it's about intergenerational co-construction by having young people in the decision table. That's the thing that we are missing, to actually have the power to make the calls. And I'm happy that we are moving in the same pathway from the Y20 till today, and I'm fighting for the same things and actually seeing little improvements. You know, perhaps it's not a one generation change, but perhaps it's kind of waves. Many generations fighting for a place for the young people to actually be more involved. So being 1:57 here in Uruguay, I will conclude this panel. Thank you all for your participation and sharing your ideas with such generosity.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Take care.